Welcome everyone. We will talk about writing a literature review. So, to remind ourselves of what we discussed last time, when you think about a literature review, it is an argument that establishes the research gap. Starting from the papers that you cite, you establish that this research gap exists. This is the main purpose of the literature review. So, we will look at a summary from last week again. And what is literature? Once again, a brief summary. Then we look at the structure of an article. Then we look at citations and references. And then briefly about publication process, and depending on the time that we have, some tips about writing. Okay, so summary from last week. So we looked at the dominant key performance indicator of research, and that is publications. And however, we know that the process of making a person an independent researcher is what is truly important. Then we looked at why we have to write: to preserve knowledge and for reproducibility. Preserving knowledge means when you publish, the knowledge that we created in our research work is retained in some repository for others to use in time to come. For reproducibility means other groups around the world can look at our paper and replicate what we have done as scientists or researchers. Then we also said that good writing is imitation. What that means is we have to look at existing well-known papers in that venue, whether it's a journal or a conference, and we have to try to follow the same structure so that it is applicable and understandable by that community. And then we briefly look at the structure of an article, and we saw that introduction, then optionally literature review, and then the method section, the results section, optionally the discussion and the conclusion are the main parts of an article. But of course, before all these things, the title and the abstract are there. Then we looked at how to search for literature. And as a first step, we said that talking to supervisors is the best option. And if this is not, this kind of a supervisor's input is not available to you, then we have to, of course, know the top journals and conferences in your area. The exercise that I gave you as the first assignment is to locate the top journals and conferences in your area. That is for your own benefit. And then we looked at that we have to use Google search, and then you can use ChatGPT search and so on now. Then these keywords will give you a few papers. And then we looked at as the second step, looking at shared citations. That means we take about 3 or 4 papers that have been published in 2025, and all these papers cite a 2022 paper. So then we know that this 2022 paper is an important paper. Those are the shared citations. And refer to papers that cite this paper. So using Google Scholar and so on, you can take this 2025 paper and see the papers that cite this paper after that paper. Then we can see whether even newer work has been done in that area. And we have to go to the websites of the key researchers and understand what they are doing right now and what they are up to, hopefully. And as a third step, we can look through their recent proceedings of these famous authors. Yeah. And then in regard to establishing credibility of a publication, we looked at the uh, impact factor, and then we looked at quartile 1, H5 index, Google metrics, and all these things had, yeah, we had used them in combination. And if these are not in reputed journals or conferences, we must not use them, at least as a start. Later, you can use them, but as a start, we must not use unauthentic or not properly validated or not so influential papers, because those papers can misguide us in wrong directions. Okay. Then we looked at briefly how to read a paper. When you read a paper, you should not start from the very top, from the title, and go up until the references. That is not a easy way to read. What is more practical is to just to get an idea about the paper. And I showed you by using Notebook LM, this Google's service, you can get the paper to be discussed by two people. That is sometimes very helpful. In about 20 minutes time, you can understand the overview of the paper with that. So in the first pass, we give about 10 minutes. And then in the first pass, what we do get is a bird's eye view, carefully read the title and so on. And then in the second pass, we look at the figures, graphs, results, and so on. Third pass is like a student who carefully understands the paper and is able to replicate the paper, that kind of understanding. If it is a code-based paper, you should be able to implement this paper at this level. Yeah. Okay, now let's move to writing the literature review, which is today's topic. So this example we looked at, the key concept that I want to talk about in writing a literature review is using the thematic approach. The thematic approach, it's so important. So now we looked at this last time, and we read that last time and found a problem with that. So for example, when we say Illuminators 2010, that's the name of the paper, conducted a study on the effects of seasonal lighting on major depression by comparing the rates of depressive illness among the residents of Seattle and San Diego. This kind of writing totally transfers the authority to that author called Illuminators. The authority of your literature search or literature review is not with you, but you have transferred that. That's why we should not focus on individual papers in the literature review, but we should keep the focus on the theme. So in a tabular form, this is extracted from Professor Priyandas, you can go by the vertical axis, that means author 1, author 2, author 3, author 4, and so on. Or else you can go by the aspects. Take one aspect, for example, in this case, the effect of seasonal lighting. Take that aspect and give the arguments that different authors give, and give your own interpretation finally. So in many of these literature reviews, the final couple of sentences of each paragraph is about how a gap exists in the current literature, how a gap exists in the current literature. So that therefore this however sentence is so important. So you can see we don't go by authors, but we go by the themes. Under each theme, we cite papers and we argue and show that there is a gap in that area. This is what we do. Yes. So a revised writing is this. There is a reason to believe that differences in seasonal light can affect the extent of depressive illness. For instance, residents of Seattle, a northern city, are reported to have higher rates of depression than residents of San Diego, a southern city, and these differences are accentuated during the winter. Illuminators 2010, suggesting that relative darkness may exacerbate mood disorders. So here you can see you are saying something with your authority, and you are using a citation to establish or enhance or provide evidence to what you are saying. This must be the way that you write the literature review. So therefore, there is an exercise that you have to do at the end. And today, you can submit it later. In that exercise, I will look at your literature review. You have to write one paragraph or two paragraphs. Don't write more than that. I have no time to read. Then I will see whether you have followed this thematic approach in the literature review. Yes. All right. So, okay, now let's look at the background literature, relevant literature versus very relevant literature, how they stand. Now, think about this picture. This is a zoomed out view of the scene. By looking at this, you can generally describe what is there in this scene, right? There are buildings, there are mountains, it's a mountainous city. Like that, you can, it's a highly populated valley. Like that, you can give a general interpretation figuratively of this picture. So background literature is like that. You give the overview of the general field in the background literature. Then you have the relevant literature. They are related to your work, but not exactly the same as yours. So they are also important. And finally, you have the very relevant literature. With these, you even compare your results. Yeah. So if you think about the background literature, yeah, so for example, these are the classic papers. Yeah. then relevant literature and the very relevant literature. And if you think about the parts of the paper that you have, okay, how do we relate these things? Where should the background literature appear? So I'll give you a second to think about. Is it in the abstract? Is it in introduction, literature review, methods, results, or conclusion? Where should the background literature appear? So maybe some of you can answer this question. Uh, in what section should background literature appear?
Introduction.
If that answer is correct. Yeah, so you have already answered, so nothing much to be done by others. Introduction is where you uh, write the background literature. Of course, you can use it elsewhere also. Yes, that's very correct. Then how about the relevant literature? So relevant literature means they are slightly more related to your own work, not exactly the same. So those things we put in the introduction, literature review, and the methods. Uh, but if you take the very relevant literature, we must use them in the literature review. We must use them in the method section, and also we must compare the results with those papers. Last time we said that we have to keep the goal in mind. That means in our paper, we must put tables, yeah, or other texts that compare our work with existing work. For example, in our context, we have a table and we add a one last row to that table in our paper. So these very relevant papers are the other rows in the table, yeah, of the results section. So comparison of results is very. What if you don't have very relevant literature? So, yes, so this is a question that everyone asks me also. There is no paper that is very relevant to the work that I'm doing. So, this is strange. I'm sorry to say this, but for this, the answer is this. Either your work is not current. That means currently the researchers are not working in your area, or you have not searched for literature sufficiently, if that is the case. So if you cannot find very relevant papers that you can compare your results with, you cannot get into a top conference or a journal. So that means your work is perhaps it can be very local. Maybe it's only Sri Lanka. Maybe it's related to a city in Sri Lanka. Then you know that you can only publish that in Sri Lanka. Others may not be interested. But if your methodologies that you use to do that comparison is applicable elsewhere, then at least for that methodology, there must be very relevant papers. So this is my take on that. Yes. So thank you very much for that question. It's an important question. We must find very relevant papers. That's when we can publish in top conferences and journals, so that you become a good researcher who has made a contribution to the body of knowledge in your area. Thank you for that question. Yes. Okay. All right. So then there are these papers called seminal and paradigm shifting papers. These are like Rudolf Kallmann's Kallmann filtering paper that took Apollo 13 to the moon and so on. So these are extremely uh, that means it's extremely valuable papers. For example, if you take right now AlexNet paper that gave rise to this 2012 revolution of deep learning, these are seminal paradigm shifting papers. So them also you can cite in the introduction. Yeah. All right. Before we move forward, some notes about the plagiarism. This is very important. Plagiarism is the use of another's words or ideas without attribution. That means we don't say that we took that and we are using that. So this is some form of theft. It means kidnapper. So it is stealing. It's a theft. Yeah, in the academic community, it's a breach of honesty in the academic community. See, the academia operates in the honor principle. Honor principle. So when I review a paper, right now I am reviewing ECCV papers, European Conference of Computer Vision papers. I finished reviewing Mackay papers, the top radiology conference in the world. So it's an honor principle. That means um, I remove all my biases. Maybe I am biased to this area of research, I had to remove that. Maybe I hate some of those techniques. I had to remove that. I had to objectively review that paper, right? So you can see that, but it's very hard to find out how I did that because people who are above me, so-called area chairs, they do not know how I did the paper review. Maybe I unethically shared that paper. Yeah, so those things we should not do. Academia is based on the honor principle. We have to work like honorable people. So, but if you are caught by doing some plagiarism, your career is over. So this is very important. So three main categories are there. One is using a source's language without quoting, using information from a source without attribution, and paraphrasing a source in a form that stays too close to the original. So if you use exact words from a paper, you have to use quotation marks, double quotes, as you call them. And if you use some, and of course you have to cite that paper. And if you use information from a paper, you have to cite that paper. And even if you're paraphrasing in a form that stays too close to the original paper, also you must cite. So, example, you always cite in the following cases. When you quote two or more words verbatim, or even one word in a way unique to the source, when you introduce facts you have found in a source, source means another paper or a book. When you paraphrase or summarize ideas, interpretations or conclusions that you find in a source. When you introduce information that is a common knowledge or that may be considered common knowledge in your field, that the reader may not know it. So when you borrow the plan or structure of a larger section of source's argument, that means, example, using theory from a source and analyzing the same key case studies that the source used, then you must cite. When you build on another's method found either in a source or from a collaborative work in a lab, you must cite. When you build on another's program in writing, computer code or not commonly known algorithm, you must cite. When you collaborate with others in producing knowledge, you must cite. Should you cite your own work? Yes, of course, you must cite your own work. That means you published a paper and you are in a conference. For example, we are doing that right now. We have a Mackay 2024 paper. We are writing a journal based on that, of course, enhanced version. We must cite our work. And this is very important. If you do not cite your own work, that's called self-plagiarism. Sometimes you have to obtain the copyrights from the previous publisher to reuse the diagrams and so on. Yeah, in your new paper. Yeah. So I hope that this plagiarism concept is clear to you. Okay, a brief quiz to you. So see whether what are the answers for this. Writing a literature review, quiz one. In a literature review, the strategy is to develop a theme and then cite the works of relevant authors to support the argument, provide noteworthy examples or counterexamples. That's true. Second one, when quoting a small portion of text from another source, it is sufficient if you use quotation marks. Is that sufficient? It is not sufficient. You must use quotation marks and cite also. False. If you paraphrase from a source, it is not necessary to cite. It's false. You must cite. We cannot republish our own work in its entirety or reuse portions of our previous written text while authoring a new work. That is true. We cannot do that. We have to cite the work and we have to get permission from the existing publisher. Yeah. Any questions about this? Are these clear to you? Okay. So let's move forward. Yes. So to summarize what we discussed up to now, the purpose of literature search is to know the state of the art and to place our work in that backdrop. It must be a congruent argument. We must project authority in writing a literature review, that means we must not go by the author one, author two, author three axis, but we must go by theme one, theme two, theme three, like thematic axis. And we looked at background literature, relevant literature, and very relevant literature, and we looked at where to cite. I hope these concepts are clear to you. Okay. So now let's briefly look at the structure of an article, and then after that we will look at the referencing standards and so on. Okay. If you think about the structure of an article, we know that it's general to specific to general. For example, an article begins with the broad general statements, progressively narrows down to the specifics of your study, and then broadens out again into doing more general considerations in your conclusion. If you think about the hourglass structure, so generally, abstract, introduction, method, results, conclusion are aligning with this. Abstract is broad, conclusion is broad. Introduction and results are narrow, but not as narrow as a method. For example, method is very, very narrow. It speaks only about your work. Yeah, so I hope this is clear, but one more complication is there within each of these. Even if you take the abstract, that also has the hourglass structure. Even the introduction has the hourglass structure. Even the method has the hourglass structure. So if you are going for the method section, do not just abruptly start the describing the method, but give a brief overview, a general set of statements to give an overview about the method, how it relates to the existing work. And then finally, give a summary that is slightly broader than all the equations or the methodological descriptions that you gave in the method. So I hope you can see it is an hourglass when you write a paper, and there are hourglasses within that hourglass. So if you keep this structure in mind when you write the paper, your paper can be usually well understood by the reviewers. Yeah. Usually, um, almost all the good papers that get accepted are well written. There can be exceptions. Good papers may not be well written sometimes also. They don't even care about too much about writing, but the paper's content is very good. They can get accepted. But usually papers that do not have good enough contribution, bad papers, usually are badly written also. Okay. So what do these arrows mean? They are extremely important. These arrows, they mean the transitions. So from the abstract, you must nicely transit from abstract to the introduction, from introduction to the method, from method to the results, from results to the conclusion. Now, even in each section, for example, in the introduction, there must be transitions from one sentence to the other. All the sentences must be connected. So I'm not teaching you a paragraph writing class for a paper right now, but these are very, very important ways of writing something so that the reader can understand. If you ask me in the ChatGPT's writing, what is the most crucial difference between our writing and ChatGPT's writing, I would say that's the transitions. Yeah. Um, So maybe we can ask a question from ChatGPT and see what it says, right? Okay, so let me try one. Let's ask a question. Um, if I composition on urgency or resolving. Let's say write a 5 paragraph composition on the urgency of taking action regarding global warming. Okay, let's see what it says and try to see whether what I said is true. This is two responses. Mm, so you can see global warming is no longer a distant abstract concern. It is an immediate, it is an immediate and escalating crisis that demands decisive action. The steady rise in global temperature driven by human activities such as burning fossil fuels and distraction has already reshaped ecosystem in society. Uh, so I cannot see the connecting words there. I'm sorry about that, although I thought that it would give like that. But here you can see more, it says moreover, right? It's connecting. So it is showing, it is signaling you that there is one more point with the same, like that. Um, so maybe I can show you some papers later that these connecting words. um, Um, so when I write, I can usually get the arguments better than ChatGPT, but the fluency and the word use is of course ChatGPT is better. So now I think it will do that, right? So it's using these connecting words. Oh, what happened? So it's saying like furthermore, moreover, in addition to environment and societal consequences. You can see these are the connecting phrases, right? In conclusion. Yeah, connecting phrases. Mm, so, like, consequently, therefore, like that. So, you are connecting the sentences, each sentence to the previous sentence. So, that kind of transitions are very important when you want to write something that other people can understand. That is what I want to show here. So, again, this structure is there. All right. So, but if you compare that with the structure of a thesis, yeah, they are almost the same. So you can see the same things that you had in a paper are there in the thesis also, the abstract, the introduction, literature survey, material and methods, results, discussion and conclusion. In addition, of course, you will have a title page, tables of content, table of contents, list of figures, list of tables, maybe list of acronyms, acknowledgements, references, appendices. Maybe you can, some people have acknowledgements at the beginning like that. So that's the structure of a thesis. And then, of course, the structure of a paper is this, as we have discussed. Yeah. Okay. So now let's briefly discuss about writing an abstract. So there are also, I want to say some crucial things about writing the abstract. Um, an abstract is not a part of the introduction. The abstract is a is an overview of the whole paper. It's not a part of an introduction. It is the overview, but it is the overview of the whole paper. That's why in the abstract, we must have all five items. Motivation. Why do we care about the problem and the results? Then the problem statement. What problem are you trying to solve? What is the scope of your work? A generalized approach or a specific situation? Then approach. How did you go about solving or making progress on the problem? Yeah. Then finally, what is the answer? Results. And the conclusion. What are the implications of your answer to the reader or the reviewers or the general scientific community? So this information I'm giving you right now is extremely crucial information. The abstract must contain these five parts, at least in the areas that I am concerned with. Yeah. This we run some experiments and report and so on, where we're solving a problem by providing an algorithm or something like that. We build a new robot system, that kind of thing. All these things, these five parts must be there. So read good abstracts and try to identify that these are there. So yes. Mm. So then when you write something, the revision of writing is so important. Um, so one thing that can happen is when the conference deadline is there, mm, 1 week later, you just finish the experiments with 1 week's time. So you have only 1 week to write the paper. This is definitely not sufficient because you have to write, think about it, maybe do some more experiments, and then write again, then revise and revise and revise. So usually you yourself who writes a paper must revise the paper. Then usually it is good to get an expert and a general reader in the field and an unfield reader. These three people should revise. For example, you're supervising the expert. Maybe you can give it to a general reader in the field. Maybe there's a colleague in the lab who would like to read the paper and give an opinion. And an intelligent person from a different field. Maybe he or she can read the paper and give you an opinion whether the paper can be understood. So this um, continuous revision cycle will help you to get a publication in a good forum. Yeah. Okay. So now let me, before going into the citation referencing styles, let me briefly talk about latex. I think some people may talk about latex to you. I don't know. There's a story behind the person who discovered latex. It was discovered by Tech System. Tech System, we call it Tech TK, although it's spelled as Tex. It's a typesetting system designed mostly by and written by Donald Knuth. This is the Stanford University computer science professor, mathematics professor, who wrote these volumes of the art of computer programming. Those who are in computer science know about these books. And Knuth is called the father of analysis of algorithms. So he's the one. He decided, okay, I design all these algorithms and I analyze all this, but my presentation of my writing is horrible. So therefore, he discovered how to move letters up and down and nicely. You can see in the latex symbol also, they have been handled nicely. So came up with that system. So LaTeX is a document preparation system and document markup language. It is a standard for publication in scientific documents. LaTeX uses text system programming for formatting its output and itself is written in text macro language. So LaTeX was discovered by another person as a on top of addition to text system. So this Donald Knuth is very very famous. So therefore, if you find a mistake in one of his books, and if you are the first person who finds that mistake, you can get a check from him for $5.56 cents 56. This also has a meaning. I forgot the meaning, and this is considered to be one of the biggest prizes in computer science. So I have read a book called Discrete Mathematics or something. The Rosen is the author. He has said that he found a mistake in Donald Knuth's book and wrote to Knuth, and Knuth has written back saying, yeah, the mistake is there, but there's one person found it before you, so he did not get the check. So you can see that this person is that kind of famous, that kind of a famous person. So let's briefly see how to do that. I have a LaTeX system installed on my computer, but if you are keen to use LaTeX, you can use Overleaf. This is called Overleaf, and you can collaborate with write also. So you can see all the papers that we have written. So many of them have been done with LaTeX. So it is so easy. All the templates are there. Maybe even for your CV also you can use this Overleaf. CV, CVs or something. So it will give you a large number of CVs, not only paper, so you can get a very beautifully formatted CV, very professional CV, unlike that CVs that that Microsoft Word can produce. These are beautiful, and our students use these formats to produce their CVs. Yeah, excellent actually. So you can see like some graphical ones are also there, but so many templates like that are there. See, so many journals and conferences have their LaTeX template. Oh, not many, of course. In my case, I don't write to that forum if they don't have a LaTeX template. So that means it's for me it's not such a good one. So So the different journals have their LaTeX template. So you can download them and use it. So if you take the IEEE mm, mm, TPAN in LaTeX, so LaTeX templates, so official templates are there. So you can use, so this is uh, mm, mm, this is the Computer Society one. So you can open that as a template, and then you have all the formatting nicely done. You don't have to worry about formatting when you are using LaTeX. You just have to worry about the content. You can see all these things are there. So it's intuitive actually. You can see these sections. You can double click here and go there and then fill these sections, like introduction and so on. So it is first letter being large and all these things will take care of. So Overleaf is this online platform that can do that. Of course, I don't use Overleaf if I don't collaborate with anyone. If I'm doing something on my own, I have a LaTeX system installed on my computer. So I encourage you to do that, but it is up to you. Yeah, it's all right. Okay, now let's go to the main topic of today, citations and references. So that I'm going to show you through LaTeX, but I will show you how to do that in Microsoft Word also, citations and references. So now if you take a paper, maybe I'll open some paper and show you. Uh, Open a recent paper and show you. Okay, this paper is the 2025 CPR Best Paper Award. So of course it has been done with LaTeX. So you can see in this one, they are writing something and they are citing a paper, 45, 125. They are citing papers, right? Citations. So those are called citations. Citations. In text citations. You can see these citations are there. You can see 125 and so on. Those are the citations, 62 and so on. And then finally, they will have at the end the list of references. List of references. So you can see these are called references. When you do it within text, these are called citations. So if you take QK norm, whatever that is, 48 is that paper. Hmm, yeah. Okay. So I think now you know, understand the difference between citations and references. Mm. But these references have a style. That means people will prescribe you, this is what you should write first. This is the second thing that you need to write. This one you need to italicize. This one you need to put in quotations, like that. So I will not give you a set of rules like that, but I don't know. I use an existing system to do that. LaTeX is what I use. You can use Microsoft Word also, which I'm going to show you soon. Yeah. So it is a standardized system for citing sources in academic and professional writing. They regulate two things. In-text citations, I think now you can understand what they are, how you refer to a source within a text, and then a reference list or bibliography, the full details at the end. So what's the difference between references and bibliography? If you write references, we must include references in the papers. Those things must have been cited within text. Yeah. Something that has not been cited within text should not be there in the references list. But the bibliography is different. In the bibliography, you don't actually necessarily have to cite to for that reference to appear, to that paper to appear in the bibliography. So different disciplines adapt different styles based on conventions about readability, attribution, and emphasis. To whom you attribute an emphasis. Example, recency versus authorship. That means you want to concentrate about uh, the order of papers that appeared in time, like 2024, 2024. Is that more important, or is the authorship more important? So what kind of information should be actually quickly visible when you cite? Based on this, people have decided that these are the styles that are required in different kinds of fields. Yeah. First of all, if you think about engineering and computer science, um, that's my area. Some of your area is not that, actually. Engineering and computer science, you can see that we are using the so-called IEEE style. IEEE style. Uh, Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers. This is the US engineering society um, based on US, and we use that. It's a compact numerical citation. So the paper that I showed you, VGGT, that uses a numerical citations, right? It's a number that you see. And efficiency for dense technical writing. So you don't spend space to write the names of the authors in text. Yeah. But if you take social sciences, medicine and psychology, use APA, American Psychology, something like that. The APA citation scheme. It's an author year scheme. So recency matters. That means when the research was done, seriously matters in this case. In IEEE, it matters, but the emphasis is not that. Common in psychology, medicine, and social sciences. I'll show you examples of these later. And then literature and humanities, for example, if you take it in the languages area, not these large language models, you use MLA. Author page, it's an author page one. Focuses on textual location, page numbers. And it is the main thing is the textual analysis. So you can see what there are other ones also. I will show you the other ones. But a brief summary before we go into details. So if you think about the IEEE, in the in-text citation, you see you use numbers like 1, 2, 3, 3 to 4, and so on. You use, right? And then the reference order in the list of references, in what order do they appear? In the previous paper, there was a mistake actually, but they appear in the order that you cite. So the first paper that you cite is important. Mm, yeah, that is what happens when you use the IEEE sign. Um, The first citation must be one. So if it is not one, that means they are not using the IEEE citation. So here you also there in list 24. So yeah, some other one. But if you take actual papers downloaded from a forum like IEEE, you will have that proper ordering on the citations. Let me see if I can find such a one so that I can show you. Um, mm, also it's wrong, right? So, yeah. Hmm. Yes, yes. I'm all showing you incorrect examples. That's okay. I think you can understand what I'm trying there. It's considered an emphasis. It's used in engineering and computer science as we saw. So APA, the citations are like author year, the references are in alphabetical order. MLA author page, references are in alphabetical order. Recency is the most important in here. Here, text localization. Okay. Any questions about this? References and citations. Yeah. Okay. Let's move forward then. Uh, there are other important styles. Chicago style, two systems, notes, bibliography, and author date style used in history and publishing. Harvard style, similar to APA but less rigid, widely used internationally. Vancouver style, numerical like IEEE, used in biomedical journals. I don't know too much about these, but these are other styles available. Okay. So first of all, let's use the LaTeX and show you how to cite these things. But one thing is you have to get the information for these citations well. Otherwise, if you don't have information, how can you get the reference, right? So sometimes you use these uh, reference managers like Mendeley, RefWorks, EndNotes, and so on. And these are able to export the citations to you. Um, uh, I do not know about too much of these things because I have a very rudimentary way of keeping my bibliography. I will show you that later. But these are uh, reference managers. Can someone who's using this say something about these things you experience? If someone uses Mendeley a lot, can someone maybe you can show your screen and show something, or is someone willing to do that, or should I do that? Try to do that. I don't use this. That's the thing. Okay, then I'll try this. Definitely, I'm not projecting you the right picture of right information here because I don't use them. So this Mendeley thing, um, let's see, let me see whether I can sign in at least. Yeah, I used a long time ago. My library, let's pick that and see what I have added previously. You can see that I have added some papers there. I mean, so you can see these papers I added. Due to some reason I added them, I think. Um, yeah, so you can see I added them, and I can put them in different themes, right? Different themes. So you can see quantization for the student, the papers that I select, and so on and so forth. I can do, and I think you can share them also. And if you can, I think probably export the citation. to- yeah, I do not know actually. You must be able to export the citation. Export. Yeah, so you see, you can export to BibTeX format, Microsoft Word format, EndNote, then this, that, and so on. So you can export into those formats. So you can export to BibTeX format also. Okay. So using a reference manager like that will help you to organize the papers that you read because there are so many papers that you have to read to complete your research well. And you should keep such a thing as an ongoing thing. As I told you, I have a different way of keeping track of these papers. Um, I can show you that. Uh, so, what I do is um, I have a file called Rangabid. This is that file. So you can see the all the papers that I have encountered that are necessary for me and books and all these things. I have put them here. So you can see now I have thousands of them. You can see these are each one of these things are journal paper, conference paper, and so on. And my own publications also because I need them to put them in the CV. My own publications are there somewhere. Yeah, these are publications where I am an author. So many publications. Mm, mm. You can see them. So this is my way of managing. So you can see 10,000 lines now. Managing my reference list. But you should not take this rudimentary way of doing that. I started that when I was a graduate student. So I continue this. I'm very familiar with this. I have no problem in using this. So I use that, but I suggest you to use a reference manager like Mendeley or something like that. I don't know how costly they are and so on. So I have given you a picture of this Mendeley thing, which I showed you online, and you can thematically group the papers that you have. And in Wikipedia, you can see what these reference managers are and what are the things that they can do and what is free, what is not free, and so on. So hopefully Mendeley is still free. I don't know. Maybe not. It's not free. Yeah, it doesn't say it's free. Yeah. Okay. So any questions about these reference managers, or is someone willing to show us or talk about the reference manager that they use, that he or she uses? Okay, then let's move forward. All right. So let's look at the IEEE referencing style first, and then do an example of this. Okay. So when you think about this IEEE one, I think it is very applicable to most of you who are in computer science, electrical department, electronics department, computer science department, IT, and so on. There are different types of references. First, these are articles. Articles are journal papers. So what is a journal paper? They publish these journals maybe once a month or something, right? Once a month. Um, so in a book once a month, and they have the names transactions, magazine, letter, communications. These are names for journals. Yeah. Then there are books. I think you know what books are. Books is the next publisher. Then there are conferences. We call them in proceedings. So in my area, conferences are the important ones. All the journals are also still important. Then PhD thesis of others, and then websites. These are the typical publications that you will want to use as sources when you use IEEE style or any other style. So in the IEEE style, there are required fields for each of these. For example, author is of course required. Title of the journal paper is required. The name of the journal is required. The year, the volume, and the number. Volume means, for example, okay, let's look at one journal and see the volume. Let's look at a journal like IEEE transactions and communication, or something like that. So we go there, IEEE and communications. Then this is from the Communication Society, IEEE Transact Communications. Should look at the IEEE Explore. So this is the thing. So now you can see they are in the volume number 73. So that means 73 years or something like that. So if you take a paper, so you take, for example, the current volume or something like that. The year is designated by the volume number. Issue is usually the month. Usually the month. So you can see in this issue, there are that many publications. So, and the page numbers are there. Page numbers are for a volume. That means in the January one, you will have the page number starting from one. And then you can see like that many pages are there now up until now. You can see. So a journal paper has to have the volume number and the issue number. Issue number is usually the month. But some journals have only 6 issues per year. So you can see how that changes. Yeah, so you understand, right? And the pagination is important apart from what page to what page, month, and optionally a note. If you take a book, uh, you can clearly understand that the author is required or the editor is required, title of the book, publication year, publisher, if it's Wiley or Pearson or something, publisher, and the year that it has been published, and then optional fees are there. If you take a conference proceedings, The author title, the book title, title of the conference, year, the pages, usually address also where the conference has been held, but sometimes now people overlook this, and the month are important fields. And if you take a PhD thesis, the author, title, the school, the university, and the year. If you take a website, author, title, the date of publication, website, the date of access. So date of access is very important because these websites change. All right. So let's see how to get something like this done. Okay, after looking at this, how they appear. So references need not be cited in the text. So, but this is I have to unfortunately, this is from the IEEE manual, but this is not correct. So references must be cited in text. When they appear in the line in square brackets inside the punctuation. Grammatically, they may be treated as if they were footnote numbers. So, as shown by Brown, so you cannot use these as nouns. They are like footnotes, as mentioned earlier, like that. Smith, Poe, and Brown, and Jones, Woods, and others. You can see. Use ETL at all when three or more names are given for a reference cited in the text. As demonstrated in 3, these are not good. Although they say they can be used as nouns, I don't like this. Don't use this. You know. Or sparing music. So here's an example of IEEE, the IEEE citations that I have done, but I'll show you this example also. It is very important to correctly format the references. Here the references have been formatted according to the IEEE style. So you can see I have cited some papers, like that, see, and so on. Right? And then the references appear like that. So this one is a book. This one is a book. You can see the author is there, and the title of the book is italicized, and the publisher is there, and the year is there. Is also a book, two authors, and the title of the book is italicized, and then the publisher and the year. This is a journal paper. This is that very famous Rudolf E. Kalman's journal paper that took the rocket to the moon, a new approach to linear filtering in production problems. That's the name of the paper. This is the name of the journal. It is italicized. Then the volume and the series they have given, but volume and issue is what we have to do, and the pagination and the year. And this is again a journal paper. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4. These authors are there. Highly accurate optical flow, whatever that is, and that is in quotation marks. And there's a comma here. See, all these things we cannot do by ourselves. So that's why we had to use an automatic mechanism of doing that. And then the title of the journal, and it has been abbreviated as you can see. Volume and the number, this is the issue, and the pagination and the month and the year. This is a conference paper, very famous conference paper. Conference paper title is in quotation marks, and the name of the conference is italicized and abbreviated, and the address is given, year, and the pagination. So, and all these things, so you can see these things I have given for a website also. Yes. So these things are automatically done. So I will try to show you how to do one of these things step by step. Any questions up to now? Okay, so let's go to overleaf, and I will show you how to do that. Mm. So this is the overleaf. So maybe you can say new project, new blank project, project name GS5020 or something. Okay, so then it will open thing to you, and the title is there, citations and references. You can see it's so easy. What is new, and so when you compile it, you compile. So, but this is not what we want to do. I want to add the bibliography file here. So you can add the file here. So you can see references, references.bib. That file extension is bib. references dot b. References dot b. Okay. So to this file, you need to add the citation. So those you can get from Google Scholar, but in the Google Scholar, there are many mistakes. So you have to be careful what you are getting. So in the Google Scholar, you can search for papers. So let's search for whatever that is. Okay. This, okay. Find some good papers, right? Um, so let's go to VVGT paper. This is the paper. So I know that the source is authentic. 11 versions are there. I need to get the correct version from that. I need to get the version that is in CVF. That is not there. This is the one. First one is that one. So use a site. Then I get this different ways: MLA, APA, Chicago, Harvard, Vancouver, and then I should go for big text if I'm using only. So then I copy this, and of course I will copy here and I will examine whether that is correct. Paste here and examine. Title VGGT, that is okay. But here I'm seeing a problem here. I need to have all this in capital. So then I have to write it like that. See, I'm editing these things because I know what is correct. Uh, then authors are combined using and. That's okay. And then the title proceedings of the computer vision, and this is not correct. So you see, you have to properly get them right. IEEE CVF on conference on computer vision and pattern recognition. And the pagination, even you can see the between the two pages, first page and the last page, they have two lines. So the address is not there. So address. So I need to find where the conference. I mean, this is CVPR 2025. So you can see it happen where CVPR 2025 cannot advance it. So I have to click that. It has happened in Nashville, Tennessee. So for US addresses, you put TN. So that state, US and Canada. For others, you put the country name also because this is IEEE style that we are using. So okay, now that is okay. Now in the main file, there are a few things that I have to do. So those things I take from here. Yeah, this one I need to add. So you, of course, you can look at this and do. So use package that can debug with latex. Style is IEEE. I hope it will work. This one is references.b. So here in the introduction, PGPT something, okay, PGPT. I want to cite that. Then you type the command, cite. So you can see from there, what was there in the thing, it comes in this big file. But if they are in the big file, it shows up when you want to cite. So when you compile them, so it has been cited, but the references have not been added. For that, I need to add some command here, print bibliography. So you can see it has nicely correctly formatted uh, according to IEEE style. So if you don't want IEEE style, but if you want APA, you can put APA here. You can see that the author year format comes APA style. Yeah. So you can see it's so easy if you use latex. There's one more reason to use latex. But we want to look at the archipelago style now. Um, yeah, that's the archipelago. So write it as one. So I have some work done here. I'll copy these things here. So you can see these are the citations that I can copy to my bib file here. So there are slightly different ways of doing that. So like that. Maybe I should copy from some other one. So then my text is here, so I'll copy that text also. So I have cited things in that text. Yeah. So you can see there are so many cite commands in that. So you can see that that is coming and the references are coming. Yes. And if you use the HyperX package, you can click them also. So you can see you can click them and you can download and click and see it will go to the application. So it's very, very powerful. So I don't want to fully show you how to do that and take your time, but I think now you understand if you go to overlay how to get this done. I think you can use ChatGPT and watch a short video and get this done. This is the way of using overlay for references, and you can change the style to from IEEE to APA to MLA and so on based on the field of interest that you are working in. So if you type MLA, it will change to MLA. You can see that change to MLA. But I think I should, in the text also, I should write in that fashion, okay? Suitable for MLA. We will look at that later. Any questions up to now? Okay, then. So let's go back to the styles and we will understand each one of these things. Yeah. So as I said before, the punctuation and so on, these are very, very important. For example, if you write a name of a journal, this is the name of the journal, the title of the journal paper, and then title of the journal paper, and then you have to put a comma. This is the name of the journal, and then you can see there's a comma. So we cannot worry about all these things because it's so cumbersome to format them. And you can see the title of the journal name has been italicized. Title of journal paper is in upright characters with quoted. So these things change depending on the style. So rather than trying to memorize them, it is very easy to use latex or use the words referencing format. I will show you the words one also later. Okay. So briefly about the MLA style. The MLA is in-text citation example is this one. So we said in any citation style, there's in-text and the list of references. So author's name in text. Magni developed this argument and you have to give these pages, I think. Author's name in reference. This argument has been developed elsewhere. So the most notorious foreign lobby in Washington is like that. See, the pages are there. So this is the MLA style. Quotations found in indirect or second-hand source, so quoted in. So like that, there are ways to cite these things. I don't know too much about this because I'm not in this field, so you have to read something. So there are, you can see author's name, editor's name, dot, title of the so, like the so all these punctuation marks, rules, and so on are there. So that's the in one. So I will not go into too much detail, but I have given some references if you are in that area which needs MLA citation. The APA, proper tense for an APA paper is there. So in the MLA style, the scholarly issue at work here is the construction of reality column, Adorning and Grant's labor, the construction, a social process in which, and so on, it's in present tense, and page numbers are there. In APA style, the scholarly issue at work here is the construction of reality cone and labeled. Can you see that when you're referring to past work done, you have to use past tense, have identified, and so on. That's it in the APA style. So APA style requires that you use the present tense for the generalizations and references to uh, stable conditions, but it requires the present perfect tense or the past tense of sources cited. Example, sources have tested the hypothesis or the sources reported the result of the test. These next sentences use the tense correctly according to the APA style. The danger of steroid use exists for every age group, even youngsters. Lloyd and Mercer, 2016, reported on 6 incidents of liver damage to 14-year-old swimmers who use steroids. So you can see this present tense and the past thing is there. In the IEEE papers, we all write usually everything in present tense. Okay. So in-text citation examples, last name of the author and the year of publication. This one has advanced the idea and so on. Then author's name in text in parentheses, not a part of the text. So like this you cite, page number, exact words. So you write the page number also. And more than one author, like so, and so on, right? So there are 3 or 5 authors, name all in the first entry like that, but thereafter use at all. For 6 or more authors, employ at all in the first and all subsequent instances. So you can see this is very, very cumbersome, right? How can you do this? So that's why we must use an automatic method of doing that. Yeah. So here I have given some examples of ones compiled in discussion. AP style example. Now, but now you can quickly do that, I think, if you want to do it in an overleaf. Maybe I can send you the files of overleaf if you want to copy that quickly to the overleaf pen test. This one I did. Mm, I'll put that in the chat so that if you wish, you can compile that and see in the overleaf. Okay. Any questions or concerns up to now? Okay. Then let's look at how to do that in Microsoft Word. Mm, Then we can take a break. So for this, I have a short video. This is that video. I will play that video and then show you where that video is. Link that video to the Moodle page. Welcome everyone. Today I want to show you how to insert references using Microsoft Word. For that we have to go to the References tab of Microsoft Word, and then we concentrate on this pane called Citations and Bibliography. There are 3 things to do. First of all, we have to manage our sources. That means insert details about the papers that we have read, the books that we have read, and perhaps websites and so on into this database. And then we actually start writing the text and insert these citations.
So once you have inserted some of these citations, you can add a bibliography or a list of all the sources that have been cited in the document. So let's get about doing that. First of all, let's manage sources by clicking manage sources. Now here you have to enter the details about books, journal papers, conference papers, and perhaps websites into this database. I think on your computer this database continues if you even start a new document. First of all, let's add a book to this. So therefore, I want to say new here, and then I have to select book as the type of resource, and then I have to type the name of the author. So this book has just one author, then that's easy. And then I will add the title of the book. So in this management of sources, there are mandatory entries. So you have to know what those mandatory entries are. For a book you need the publisher. I usually, you must usually put the year of publication and the edition also. So this is the second edition of the book that I'm referring to. So I will write second here. Okay. Now that is okay now. So now you can see that book has been added. Now it is in the current document also. Okay, now let's add a paper. So you say new once again and pick a journal article since we are adding a paper. So now unfortunately we'll have to add authors one by one. So we will add those authors. This has several authors. The last name first, and then the first name, and you say add, and then another author is there, the last name. Actually this author has an accent in his name. I know how to do that in latex for example, but here I do not know, so maybe there's something that we have to worry about later. Add, and then the other authors, last name and the first name. Now management of sources is done for the time being. Then I need to write the document while inserting citations. So let's say I want to say now, shall we do it in APA style first? APA style. When I say insert citation, and books. Okay. Now when you are writing the literature search, of course you have to write meaningful sentences, so I will write not so meaningful sentences. Now, so one quotation from this Strunk and White book is this. So I will write that as a quotation, and then you have to cite that. Then after that, here this okay, oh my goodness, I had to write the page number, so that I made a mistake there. 1999. Okay, so here, so the online source is Professor Koopman's article. Okay, let's say I'm done with this. Now I have added the citations. Now in APA style, I now add the bibliography. So usually it's written as references. So now I'm done. So if I click here, I think it should go there. So now this is in the APA style. So you can say it's not the exact way of doing that, but I will show you the right way when you do it in latex. Now, if you want to change it to IEEE style, you can change it to the IEEE style, and then the nice IEEE style comes. But in IEEE style, you can use this paper, these brackets as nouns, but it sounds odd. One and two are books. Sometimes it is odd. So you can change the citation style like this from here to MLA also. Welcome everyone.
Okay. So that's about citing using Word. So maybe we can take a brief break now. We can meet at 4:43 or so, 4:43, and then continue. Yes. So for this link to the video, I will include in the Moodle page. But before that, does anyone have a question? Yeah. Okay, then let's go for a break, please. welcome back. So we will briefly talk about the publication process, how to get the initial submission done, and then responding to reviewers' comments and so on. We briefly look at those things. So when you want to get something published, you write a manuscript, of course. Of course, before that, you have to have the research done and your research must be there. And we know that while we are producing the research, we also write so that we understand whether we can formulate the argument properly to get into the journal paper. So here I'm talking about a journal paper. And then once the manuscript has been written according to the format of the journal paper, usually you can do that in overleaf using the journal papers template, or you can have the Microsoft Word template also. We submit that to the journal. So usually there's an online portal using which you can submit the journal paper for review. So then the editor sends for review. This is called a peer review. This is called peer review because they are our peer researchers. And then the editor's decision is conveyed. So we'll get into a little more details later. And now editor's decision can be rejected with no encouragement to submit. This is very bad, and this it hurts you when this decision comes that they will say something. Okay, we appreciate your work, but consider finding a different forum because this forum is not suitable for this work or something. That's the worst rejection that you can get. So you redo some work, thoroughly revise, and submit as a fresh paper with drastic changes to this, or submit to a different journal. And then the usual decision is accept with revisions or reject with encouragement to resubmit. You once again thoroughly revise this and submit as a revised paper. So once again, it will go through the process. And then this is accept with the minor revisions. This hardly happens. So this is the typical three decisions that you can receive when you submit a paper. So usually it should be this one. Okay. So look at this cartoon, the peer review process. The most scientists regard the new streamlined peer review process as quite an improvement. So many people are there, who are there to kill our paper, to get the paper accepted. We have to go there. So there are so many people to kill our paper. Yeah. It's not like that, but I think we feel like that. Okay. So a typical peer review process in a journal happens like this. So first of all, the editor is a very reputed position, editor-in-chief or the editor. He assigns the submission to an associate editor. There are many associate editors who are in charge of different areas within your journal. Yeah. So these associate editors, they are people who know what your area is, and then they know who are the other researchers who can understand your work. They have that idea in their mind. So this associate editor assigns reviewers. So sometimes I can be a reviewer like that. So usually the faculty members from other universities and so on who have publications in those areas are the ones who will get selected. Then reviewers review the paper. So usually they are given a reasonable amount of time to review the paper, maybe 3 months or so to review the paper. So usually the reviewers go through the paper in detail and write detailed comments. Then associated receives these reviews and confidential reviews. Sometimes there are some pages where you can put confidential reviews that are not sent to the authors, but only the associate editor can read them. And then associate editor makes the decision, accept major revision or reject, and conveys that to the editor, and the editor will communicate the decision to the authors. And that's a typical process. Yeah. So there are three review types also. One is called single blind review. That means the reviewers are hidden from the authors. That means if you write a paper, you do not know who the reviewers are, but the reviewers can see your name. So therefore, they can do a Google search and then find out that you are from this university and so on. They can find that out. So most journals are single blind reviews, but some journals may be there that are double blind reviews. Double blind means both the reviewers and the authors remain anonymous. So for example, the top conferences in our area and in the area AI area, they are all double blind reviews. So that's why, irrespective of what our location is, we have been able to get into those forums because they do not know that we are from a very small university. So only the merit of the actual scientific work matters when you have double-blind reviews. That's good. Uh, in open review, reviewers and authors are exposed to each other. This is a very bad situation. But there is another platform called Open Review. In that platform, the reviews are publicly visible. Publicly visible. Um, if you go to Open Review, um, some Open Review reviews are publicly visible. Uh, I don't know how to search for that paper. I don't know whether these papers are reviews are open yet. Okay, whatever it is, okay, this is a paper. So you can see the reviews are available, right? I can see the reviews of the paper, but I don't know who the reviewers are. They are cryptic names given, but I can see the reviews. So the decision, accept, oral. So that's a great one. Okay, let me see what has happened to. We also have a paper, ICLR, International Conference on Learning Representations. Um, all are there. Yeah, I don't think I can search. Right. Yeah, this is written by a student. It's a poster, but people can see the reviews. So this is not the open review that I mentioned in the slides. This is reviews being open, but what I mentioned here is whether the reviewers names are revealed to the authors and authors' names are revealed to the reviewers. But in any way, there's a thing called conflict of interest. For example, my professor, who was at my Canadian university, cannot review my papers ever. So that is called conflict of interest. Arises when reviewers and authors have disproportionate amount of respect or disrespect for each other. So when you submit a paper, you usually have to declare the conflict domains. That means I have to write uom.lk is my domain. So no reviewer from Morato University will be assigned. Yeah, so that's clear. So let's briefly look at the typical criteria that a journal uses to review our papers. That means if you are a reviewer in that journal, what are the criteria that you are supposed to look at? Anyway, they will check whether this is application, research, or a survey paper. I think you know what these things mean. And then the most important thing is the novelty. They will look at whether the work is novel. That means there is no paper before that was seen by us, that could have been seen by this paper, that does the same thing as we have done. Yeah. So novelty is so important. Uh, so you have to ensure when you submit the paper that your paper is novel. And of course, correctness. Mathematical equations and so on must be correct. The methodology must be correct. And of course, and the relevance to the journal. So if you are doing a robotics one and you submit it to a power systems conference, this is not correct, right? So relevance is important. And the readability, whether it's clear, people look at that. Originality, whether the work is original. So that means compared to novelty, as like so many people doing this kind of work. So that kind of an idea. Contribution. So amount of things that this paper is newly presenting. Is it presenting a new algorithm, new data set? In the algorithm, what are the different algorithms that you are presenting? Are you presenting one algorithm or two algorithms? Are you presenting a new theory like that? So the contributions. Usually in a paper, you write the contributions in a numbered format also. Yeah, contributions. Utility means what is the use of this? So some papers are there, they are so remote and so niche. So journals will say, okay, this has no utility. Others will not use it because you are from a very narrow field, something like that. So they will check the utility also and the results and comparison. I think you know what that means. And of course, the important references in that area must be there. So when you review a paper, you usually, as a reviewer, I will also do a literature review myself, brief literature review, and see whether the author has missed important papers. For some areas, I know the important literature. For some areas, I do not know the important literature. So I had to do a literature search myself. So if you think about the CVPR review guidelines, we will go to the websites and see for the conference, right? So we can be guided by that, CVPR 2025. And 26 one is also available. Yeah. Okay, you can see. Yes, high quality and so on and so on. Reviewing timeline and so on. So you can see the instructions they give. Each paper that is accepted should be technically sound and make a contribution to the field. Look what is good or stimulating in the paper and what knowledge advances it has made. We recommend that you embrace novel, brave concepts, even if they have not been tested on many datasets. For example, the fact that the proposed method does not exceed the state of the art in accuracy and existing or an existing benchmark dataset is not grounds for rejection, it says. So you can see it's a very good way of thinking, right? So they allow brave new ideas. Yeah. Uh, so ethics and so on. Then how to write good reviews. Uh, yeah. So there are points. Then some people ask LLM policies. LLM policies. A large number of model LLMs are not allowed to be used. Large language models are not allowed to be used for writing the reviews or the meta reviews at any step. So papers cannot also be written. You can use LLM to write your review. You cannot use an LLM to write your review. This is true for any LLM, whether you run it locally or an API. Yeah, but you can use it to polish, I think. Those are the guidelines for the reviewers. I need to show you the criteria that usually are given. That I will write here. I know by memory what are the criteria. So the CPR like conferences, the things that you have to write are, first of all, I had to write a summary of the paper. That means with this, the area chairs who are senior than I am and the authors can understand whether I have understood the paper. Yeah. Then as a second one, I had to write the strengths. What are the good things about the paper? Is it contributing some new theory? Or is it producing excellently good results? Is this method new, like the strengths? Then I write weaknesses. So usually the weakness section is long. In any review, it is like that. Weaknesses. So you identify whether especially you consider the novelty, the correctness, fairness of comparison. That means you are comparing with last year's papers and they used a smaller computer and you use a very powerful computer. And then you are saying that your method is faster. That's not fair. No? So fairness. Mm, and whether all the metrics have been tested, extensive testing that you have done, whether there are any conflicts within the paper, that means wrong arguments that you are presenting. Okay, you are making a claim in the abstract, but you have not sufficiently proven that. So all these things we test. And we also look at the papers that have been published last year and see whether the results are substantially surpassing. It is not a requirement, but I usually check that. Weaknesses. Then I had to pick a rating. So this rating is usually um, strong accept, weak accept, weak accept. Um, some people give borderline, some people don't give borderline. Weak reject. reject, strong reject. Then I had to justify my decision, justification. I had to give why I am weak accepting that paper. So usually papers hover around weak reject and weak accept. This is a bad area. Uh, it's not a very happy area for papers to hang around. Justification. Then I have to usually in the justification or afterwards I have to say what I expect in the rebuttal. These conferences, these high rank conferences, you can give a rebuttal also. That means you can the authors can agree or disagree with the reviews and say something about submit about one-page document whether you agree or disagree with this, and you can argue. Uh, you can, if the reviewers have not understood something, you can say about that and so on. So the expectation, the rebuttal, I say, okay, these are things that I expect in the rebuttal so that I increase the rating that I have given. And then my confidence also, reviewers' confidence. That means whether I'm very confident about the review that I have written, or I'm generally okay, not so confident. About 5 levels of confidence is also there about the reviewer's confidence to be written. So after this review process, review time period is over, when I log into the conference review portal, I should be able to see the other reviewers' comments. Then starts the discussion period. So during the discussion period, the reviewers can discuss among themselves, of course, in the online portal. And after that, you make the final decision as a reviewer. And then the area chairs will look at all the reviewers' decisions, the reviews that they have written, and their rating. That means the strong, accept, like that. And then they will make the final decision. I think the senior area chairs also look at this final decision. If anything is very unclear, then the very top level, the program chairs may also intervene. So these are the criteria that I used in a conference, a very good conference thing. So you can see, unfortunately, sometimes if you take these local conference organizers, the questions they ask are totally irrelevant, actually, totally irrelevant. But these are the ones that are considered in top conferences. Yeah. Even if you take this overleaf thing, open review thing I showed you, one paper I showed you, so let's see the reviews that they have written. So orals are good ones. So you can see it's accept oral. So let's see, you can see summary is there. Yeah. Uh, okay. Let's take one reviewer's review. These are the rebuttals by the author. You can give a lot of rebuttal in this ICL. I think this is official review by this one. He has given a summary. Yeah. He has given some ratings and given 4 strengths of the paper, given 5 weaknesses of the paper, and then some questions that is accepting the rebuttal to answer, and initially also like the rating of the paper and confidence. And he's saying, I'm absolutely confident of the edition. So it's a, I think, reviewer who understands things, I think, yeah, like that. So I think you can understand what I'm discussing here. The important criteria that the reviewers use in reviewing CVPR papers. Any questions about that? So not only CVPR, other top conference papers. Yes. Before moving into the writing tips, I will show you one slide about the introduction. This is from a different lecture that I do. So in the introduction, we must write down the contribution in the point form. So first of all, in your mind, you have to write it down in a piece of paper. What problem is this contribution solving? What is the evaluation that proves that your contribution solved the problem? not solve he problem, solve the problem. So these things must be clear in your mind. If it is not clear in your mind, how can you write the introduction? You cannot write the introduction then. So the reader must have an aha moment when that reader reads the introduction. So some people, if you ask me, what is the most important part of the paper? Some people can say it's the abstract, but actually it's the introduction. So decisions are made by reading the introduction mostly. If you can make a decision as a reviewer by going through the introduction, even without looking at the methodology section or research section, that's a great and excellent paper. But usually it does not happen like that. You have to very carefully go through the method section and the research, compare with existing papers and all these things you have to do. But if the introduction is a great introduction of a great work, of course, great work, I think this good thing, good thing. So this is a quotation from Bill Freeman. He was a he's the computer vision professor at MIT. Your paper will be rejected unless you make it clear upfront what you think your paper has contributed. I'm sorry. If you don't explicitly state the problem you are solving, the context of your problem and solution, and how your paper differs and improves upon previous work, you are trusting the reviewers will figure it out. That's not happening, right? If you are not clearly stating why your paper is different, how you are solving this problem by yourself, how can the reviewers figure that out, right? It is not clear in your mind. If it is not clear in your mind, it will never be clear in the minds of the reviewers. Therefore, I picked some existing well-known papers and identified the parts that have been there in the review, okay, in the introduction. For example, there is a very famous CVPR paper called Mask Autoencoders by a very famous author called Kaini He, who introduced the ResNet paper for those who know that. So you can see in the introduction, first of all, the problem area of work is there. And then SOTA, state of the art, they are describing what is existing in the world right now. And they have some teaser figure to just briefly show what they have been able to achieve. And then the gap in the existing work. That's why we need literature, right? So you can see that's why we spend so much time to understand what literature means, to lead people to the gap. And then you give the general idea of the solution and the exact idea of the solution. And then finally, how you have evaluated that. So this is the kind of flow that needs to be there in the introduction. Yeah, introduction is not an introduction to the field. Introduction is the introduction to the work where you lead people starting from the general discussion to through the state of the art to the problem that you have identified, the general idea how you have solved that, and exactly how you solve it, and finally how you have evaluated and established that your solution is correct. So I have many other examples of introductions written like that. All these papers, great papers, have this kind of flow in the introduction. I will not go into further details about the introduction, but I want to briefly talk about the writing tips. Yes. In regard to writing tips, I think many people say many things. It depends on the field also. It depends on, of course, look at the journal papers and the conference papers in your field and make decisions about writing. But I am guided by this very famous book called Strunk and White, The Elements of Style. There are two copies in the library also. It's a very small book, but very precise advice. If you are serious about research and if you want to become if you are a PhD student and you are working with a good research problem and you want to become a professor or you want to become a researcher, then you must read this book. You must read this book. So I will extract a few things from this book and describe to you so that you can mm, 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 benefit from this. Yeah. Now this book gives you rules. This was written like long time ago, I think 1950s or something, I think. And Professor William Strunk has been professor of English, I think. Yeah. Choose a suitable design and hold to it. Yeah. Um, Contrast a love letter from a paper. Planning must be deliberate, prelude to do writing. Start from a skeleton, then fill in the text. You already know the skeleton, right? You already know abstract, introduction, and so on, right? In introduction, what is the skeleton? In the method section, what is the skeleton? So first of all, have the skeleton, plan out the paper, and then start writing. Make the paragraph the unit of composition. So if you take the paragraph has three things. A paragraph must talk about only one idea. First sentence is a topic sentence. It is also the sentence of the transition. That means connecting the previous paragraph. Carefully choose the order of sentences within the body of the paragraph to archive and establish the key sentence that you are putting. And the last sentence is a conclusion. Last sentence is a conclusion. So these three things must be there in the paragraph. So then after reading that paragraph, the reader must be convinced of the first argument that you made in the first sentence of the paragraph. Yeah. So learning to how to write the paragraph properly is extremely important. Then this Siri advice given long time ago, 1950s, okay, 1950s. So this is applicable to our work also. We always write in active, use active voice. It's very hard to write in active voice, but very easy to understand. So I spent so much time in converting the sentences to active voice. Active voice means in Sinhala kartrukaraka. So passive, I'll show you some examples later. The active voice is usually more direct and vigorous than the passive voice. Put statements in like that. So many rules are there. So I invite you to read that book. It is available online also. And omit needless words and so many advices like that. So if you think about the paragraph must be the unit of construction. The unit the unit and coherence of unity and coherence of ideas among the sentences is what constitutes a paragraph. So you can see it is not just a collection of sentences. A paragraph is a group of sentences or a single sentence that forms a unit. A paragraph speaks about one key idea. That one key idea must be there in the topic sentence. And the supporting details in the middle and the closing conclusion. So read this for yourself, a very good paragraph, and see whether these three aspects of the paragraph are there. I'll give you a couple of minutes to read that. Okay, so I'll read this along with you. Canada is one of the best countries in the world to live in. First, Canada has an excellent healthcare system. All Canadians have access to medical services at a reasonable price. Second, Canada has a high graduate standard of education. Students are taught by well-trained teachers and are encouraged to continue studying at university. Finally, Canada's cities are clean and efficiently managed. Canadian cities have many parks, a lot of space for people to live. As a result, Canada is a desirable place to live. So you can see the first sentence is a key sentence, and the last sentence is a conclusion. So I think when you reach the last sentence, you are convinced that the key sentence has been proven. So you can see that's the nature of a paragraph. So I have many other examples. You can look at these examples by yourself, and transitions are important once again. So you can look at these examples from different books. And this is from a conference, a very famous conference paper. Yeah, this is CPR 2020 Best Paper Award. So you can see structure from motion. This is one paragraph in their literature review. Traditional methods such as structure from motion can reconstruct 3D structures of individual rigid scenes as input, uh, given as input multiple views of each scene and 2D key point matches between these views. So I hope this is the key sentence. This can be, so you can see they are connecting to the previous sentence by saying this can be explained in two ways. First, however, second, hence, this is a conclusion. Neither familiar SFM approaches can learn reconstruction of deformal objects from raw fixes of a single view. So you can see the however part is also there because this is a paragraph of a literature review describing the existing ones, arguing for that, and then finally identifying a little bit of a summary and identifying what is deficient in that also. So this structure of the paragraph is there in any good piece of writing. Yeah. So one more paper and so on. So a paragraph is a group of sentences that deal with a single topic. Dividing up the text into paragraphs helps both writer and the reader to follow arguments more clearly. The length of a paragraph varies significantly according to the text type, but should normally be no less than 4 or 5 sentences. Usually, but not always, the first sentence introduces a topic. Other sentences may give you definitions, examples, extra information, reasons, restatements, and summaries. The parts of the paragraph are linked together by phrases and conjunctions. They guide the reader through the arguments presented. Yeah. Okay, so getting back to Strunk and Might again, some examples about using active voice. So, okay. For example, a bad sentence, not a bad sentence, a sentence written in passive voice is this one. There were a great number of trees, dead, there were a great number of dead leaves lying on the ground, this one. At dawn, the crowing of a rooster could be heard. The reason he left college was that his health became impaired. So here the actor or the author is not seen, right? It was not long before she was very sorry that she had said what she had. Here is the active voice version. You see how powerful and easy to understand. Dead leaves covered the ground. The cock's crow came with dawn. Failing health compelled him to leave college. She soon repented her words. They are short, they are powerful, they are succinct. So if your professor is not disagreeing with you, please use active voice. It will help to do good writing. And putting statements in positive form. He was not very often on time. Yeah, let's take only this one. Yeah, he usually came late. It's very easy to understand. Second version is very easy to understand, right? Of course, if you are a literature person and your paper is on literature, you can use beautiful sentences like that, the previous one. But in technical papers, in science and so on, we can use the second way to quickly give the and omitting needed words. So there are so many long phrases that can be written in just one line, right? One word. The question as to whether. There is no doubt but that. No doubt. Very easy, right? Use for fuel purposes. Use for fuel. He is a man who, he, in a hasty manner, hastily. So like that. So there are long phrases and we have to avoid them. And we can use one word to describe that in a succinctly and easy to understand manner. Okay. So now let's in the few minutes left, I'll describe you the next assignment. This is an easy assignment. You have to write only 2 paragraphs about your research, about a literature review of 2 paragraphs about your own area of research. And you have to write what is your area of research. Okay, this is assignment 1. Assignment 2 is what we are looking at. Assignment 1, I think you already know. Write 1 paragraph or 2 paragraphs literature review using papers and others that you listed in the previous assignment or new source. You can use new sources, that does not matter, but the thematic emphasis must be there. What that means is Rather than concentrating on the authors, we must concentrate on the themes. Emphasis is on the argument, not the paper cited. And the structure of the paragraph, I must be able to see. That means a key sentence, supporting sentence, and the conclusion. And the citations and must be pristinely formatted. That means you have to use an online scheme to do that, either LaTeX or Microsoft Word. And also, all the fields of the citation must be there. So there are mandatory fields. I discussed those when I looked at showed you the IEEE format. Those mandatory fields must be there. And please submit only 2 paragraphs. Don't submit long ones. Remember, there are many students. I have to read all these things. I cannot understand your literature review most probably, but I will only look for these features in the literature review and the good citations. Yes. That's all we wanted to cover in this lecture. This is the last lecture I'm doing for you. So we have a few minutes left. So if you have any questions, you are most welcome to ask. I hope the assignments are clear. And there's a small quiz also that you have to do click, 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 click before 6:30 in the evening today. Let me move to the quiz so that it's clear for you. You can see there's a small quiz. Yeah, people have attended. Okay, almost all the people have getting good marks. Yeah, a lot of people have done. So please finish this also. It's very easy. Please do on writing a literature review. But the assignment is the one. Okay, then if you do not have any questions, you may log off. If you have a question or comment or to ask anything or discuss anything, you can stay here and discuss. Thank you very much for participation. Uh, I wish you all the very best for your research, and I wish that you will be able to get your work done well and write a good paper and get a great publication and improve your citations and become a great researcher, contributing to our university and contributing to our country's scientific advancement. Thank you and have a pleasant evening, everyone.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.